But I'm going to say a couple of words,
Okay.
and when I say a word, just whatever comes to mind. Don't feel like
Sure.
don't feel pressure, and then after we go through that point, I might ask you a little more detail about certain questions.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Okay. So when I say the word spirituality, what comes to mind?
Um, that I have none.
And religion.
That I'm a non-believer.
And can you talk about that a little?
Yes. It's not necessarily something that I feel makes you an empty person. And what led me to become a non-believer, I was raised in the Episcopalian Church as a child. Um, I was led down that path because I feel like as people we can still do good for one another, and we should do good for one another regardless of being religious. I feel like the idea that there's an afterlife and that's something that you need to earn while you're here is not a good enough reason to treat other people with respect. So, regardless of what tribe or what sect you come from, it's important to treat other people well and to not be doing that because you want to earn your place in the afterlife.
Okay, thank you. So where does the word or the thought God come into play?
I think it's incredibly human to want to believe in God because we are very afraid of death and not existing anymore. So, in a sense, God is still a product of the universe because it's in our evolution to believe in the notion of God because it's a very painful thing for us to come to terms with the idea of not having eternal life. But I still think that God isn't a real thing. I think it's an idea. I think it's an abstraction that's a coping mechanism for us as people who face a really cruel, what they perceive as a really cruel and difficult thing to come to terms with.
And talking about cruel or difficult, even though it's slightly unrelated to what you're talking about, how do you deal with difficulties and misfortune and sadness? Does religion or does any of what we're talking about come into play?
I think it's the first thing people do when they're dealing with sadness or death in the family is they spend time with their loved ones or their family or their community. And I think religion is just another little piece added on to those things. We all want to be around other people when we go through a difficult time, and I think over the course of many years, some mythology got wrapped into that as well, and rituals. And rituals is, tradition and ritual are one hop, skip, and a jump away from an organized religion. It takes time, but I think that these things evolve and ideas evolve sort of like anything evolves, like animals or if there's an evolution, it's much like biological evolution that takes place with ideas as well as the physical world and biology.
Thank you. And if I say something like, well, what comes to mind when I say evil?
When you say evil to me, I don't know if there's pure evil, but I think it's a matter of perspective. So one community might perceive something as being evil that another community doesn't have a problem with. And it's hard to really know universally what is just pure evil. And there are things that I believe are just truly evil, like murder. But, and I think most people can agree on that. I guess, but there are many things that other people perceive as evil that are not evil. And a lot of times, different tribes and different religions have different versions of evil.
And given what we're talking about, when I say the word love, is there an interrelationship when you think of that?
Between love and evil, or love and...
Well, love and just the general concept of religion, spirituality, God.
Sure, I think love, again, goes back to what I was saying earlier with just people needing to be a part of a community. It's in our DNA. It's in our mindset. It's in our genetics to want to be with other people and to experience love. And regardless of whether God exists or not, that's still also a product of the universe. And the idea of love, the idea of God, those are still products of the universe as well.
Okay, and just lastly, if you wanted to gain more insight or find a source that was helpful with regard to all of these issues, is it something you think you'd like to pursue or you would access?
Maybe I'm not understanding the question exactly.
Well, specifically, look, let me take some. Forgive me for that.
No problem.
I guess what I'm saying is, when we think about Google or Facebook, these are sites where you can not only share with friends and people you know what you're going through and philosophy and gain insight into certain information, but if there was a website that was just relative to religious or spirituality, and it gave you either an anonymous ability to share your point of view or get others' point of view given what you're going through, or with people you actually know and want to share this information. Is it something you think you would pursue?
Sure, if that was available, I might post on the internet and have a discussion with a larger community about religion and issues and what it means to be a believer and non-believer. I think that's a great tool to have access to. And I think more of that would mean maybe a better understanding for people who have opposing points of view about what they see as evil and what other people see as evil, and respecting one another and trying to have fewer murders in the world, because I think maybe we can all agree that that is evil. So
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Very informative.